Alright, so I got a blade inductrix. I turned it into a tiny whoop. Got the faster motors from Micro Motor Warehouse. Couldn't stop there. That was so gosh darn cool. I had to go for one of the Rakon Heli carbon fiber and aluminum frames. That was real cool. A little expensive, but super cool. And I couldn't stop there. I decided that I needed to spend another $50 and try out the new NewBeeDrones BeeBrain flight controller, which is a Naze 32 style flight controller. It has magnetometer, gyroscope, an accelerometer, It comes pre-flashed with Betaflight, and I chose the version that has a frsky style ACCST receiver in it, so it'll bind straight to my Tyrannus. No more having to use the clunky module. And I had an old style that didn't work very well anyway. No more having to use that in the back of my Tyrannus. So I've got the Rakon Heli model taken apart now, and I'm investigating how to get this to lay flat and what's the best scenario. I don't know. Anybody who's built one of these Rakons and turned their tiny whoop into it knows that the camera mounts that are available, I've just got a 4-pack, 5-pack with varied angles of camera rake. Anyone knows that the Rakon Heli frame only has holes front and back, side to side, and not front to back. So the original mounts on with 4 rubber grommets on pre-formed standoff type deals, but that is not the case when you try and turn one into the Rakon. So I've seen people use just the 2 on the sides, kind of bend the board a little bit. On my first build with the original board, I stuck it down to the carbon fiber with some 3M tape, and then I stuck the camera down to it with some more 3M tape. So it would have been the exact same weight as the tiny whoop build with the original frame, but had that one addition of that tape there. But this time I'm going to see if I can't use the screws, because with the NewBeeDrones frame, they do send along a whole another set of rubber grommets and screws, assuming, I guess, that you're going to put it in the original frame, but I'd really like to put it in the Rakon Heli's frame, so we'll see how that goes. Right, if I didn't mention it before, when you try to affix the camera on top of the flight control board on the Rakon frame, the original screws aren't long enough, and the only way that you can get them to penetrate the holes here in the Rakon frame is to really squeeze down on the sides, kind of like this while you're putting the board together, and you can only get just the tip of the screw into there. So that's why I put the board onto the frame with some 3M double-sided tape. But this time I'm going to try and isolate it from the carbon fiber with just some electrical tape that I put on here and cut out from the back side. So we'll see if that allows me to put the board on there with no tape and possibly let me use the factory screws. We'll see. Alright, well, mounting the flight controller flat on the bottom of the carbon fiber frame without sticky tape so I could use the factory screws didn't really work out right. The carbon fiber still deformed as I tightened it down against the bottom of the board. It still deformed as it bent around those two chips there, because it put pressure on those two spots alone. So I am going to use some sticky on the bottom of it, but I did find a good way of attaching the camera using the stock screws. What I did was I cut the rubber grommets in half, so that they were only half as long, and I put them in between the board and the camera mount, put the screws upside down through there, and my camera mount had holes that were small enough that they could be threaded with these screws, and tightened down pretty good, and I was able to get all three in there, so I'm not going to have any wiggle back and forth of my camera on the board, at least. The 3M tape does work really well. I use it to stick just about everything down in my builds, micro and otherwise. Let's see, that's as far as I'm at right now. So next step is I will probably peel that tape off of there and put down a piece of 3M instead, and get this board aligned. Being that it has Betaflight on it, I will be able to calibrate the accelerometer when I plug it into there. So if the board is a little tilted one way or another because of the uniform thickness of tape and the ununiform bottom of this board, that'll be recalibrated then, so I won't have to worry about any kind of a drifting problem, hopefully. Also, I did cut a little hole in the front of the camera mount there for the antenna, because I believe I was experiencing decreased range with my antenna sandwiched underneath the flight controller on my last one. So this time I'm going for full range, being that I'm using my Tyrannus. I would like to be able to fly this pretty darn far away, at least to the limits of the 25 milliwatt transmitter in this camera. So I'm going to put some tape on there. Focus. Touch the screen. Nice. Put some tape on there, and we'll see what happens next. Alright, so I've got the board and the camera on the main frame. I carefully cut some double-sided 3M along the area, exactly where it lies on the frame under there. And then right here and down here I cut out a little chunk of it so that these tiny little chips that are located right there would fit in between the tape and get the board to lie even flatter on the carbon fiber. So that's where I'm at right now. It looks pretty good, I think. I look at the carbon fiber from the side and I don't see any deviations, no warping up of any of the arm channels. It looks flat all the way across. So that's what I've been looking for and having problems attaining with the different screwing methods. It would screw one arm up or the other. So now I'm going to cut my camera cable a bit shorter and solder it onto the naze, and we'll see how that goes. Alright, well, things have become a little complicated. In all of my testing and placement, I did not realize that the USB port right there, at the back of the board, is right where the battery goes. So when I went to place the battery lockers on there, it was like exactly in line with those screws. So I'm going to need to get a little creative now. I have a thought that the front one can still be mounted normally. Being that the battery slides in from the back, if the front one is mounted normally, and if I can find some kind of standoff or riser to lift this above the USB port, then the battery can go into the quad at an angle, which wouldn't be too horrible. It still wouldn't stick below the motors, and it might even be better for CG. Who knows? But yeah, we'll see how that goes. Well, I might have figured something out. With a little modification of that back one there, snipped out the center section, snipped the top, folded it open a little bit. It seems like I can keep the battery in there okay. I think it'll stay. If not, I'll put a little rubber band over the bottom. That'll hold it better. But, alright, I think I got that figured out. It's actually kind of cool. The quad will be angled forward, and the battery will kind of make it a little wedge shaped. But, alright, wired it up, and I'll wire it up and see where we are. Oh, and super important to note right now, when you install the inductrix BeeBrain flight controller on this quad, you need to put the motors in opposite positions as the micro rotor is originally. You can see here, front and back, the fan towards the sides of the quad, like the Hubsan or a couple of other little ones do. But the BeeBrain uses Betaflight, which uses the Betaflight motor rotation, so you need to have them fan in towards the front and rear. And if you're using the Micromotor Warehouse motors, you can take a look at this right here from the underside. You need to reverse the color positions. So I unscrewed the ducts and just rotated them around once. And when I plug them in, they'll be going the right direction. And if you don't do that, they'll be spinning the wrong direction, and you'll change your propellers over to the right motors, but those motors are spinning against the direction they want to, decreasing their life. So you want to make sure you get these things swapped. Alright, here it is, all assembled. Looking good. Got nickel on the scale here, 4.97, exactly what it should be. 21.96 grams. With battery, 27.91 grams. Doing this all on my phone, taking a picture of this. Okay, now I need to bind the Tyrannus to my new little tiny whip. I have pre-created a model in my Tyrannus.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
Switch warning.
Sorry about that. I have called it Super Whip. There are a couple of things you need to make sure are correct. Go to the first page here and scroll up, and your internal RF needs to be D8. You can't use D16 or any of the others. And apparently you can choose the channels that you want to use. I don't ever change this. Whatever this one dictates, that's what I stick with. I don't ever use more than like 6 channels normally anyway. So D8, channel 1 through 8, and then bind in the normal procedure. So I tried it 2 ways. I tried putting the Tyrannus in bind first and then holding the button while powering it on. And I got this, it went from a solid red light to a flashing red light as soon as they were both objectives complete, which is opposite what the manual said would happen. It said a red light would happen when binding was complete. So I tried it the other way around. I tried holding the button down, Tyrannus off, holding the button down, powering this on, and while holding the button down the whole time, turning this on, navigating the menus, putting it into bind, and as soon as it went into bind, the solid light went to flashing. So I decided, hey, I can check that easily. If it's bound, I can plug it into Betaflight, go to the receivers tab, and I should be able to see things moving. And in fact, things are moving very nicely over there. I love that feature of Betaflight, where you can see how fast your stick movements would actually make the quad move if you're throwing the stick that far. So it looks like my sticks are set up pretty good. 1500-ish midpoints. Might have to change my endpoints a little bit. But binding successful. So next I will go into the configurations and change a couple of things there. So the first thing to do when configuring any new Naze board I have found is to calibrate the accelerometer. The funny thing about this being that it plugs into the USB. The USB port is on the bottom, and the quad is very, very shallow. So the only thing I could figure, I couldn't use my regular level board that it's just a little piece of board that has 4 screws, one on each corner, and I turn them in or out while using a little bubble level to level left to right and front to back. But so what I figured out is I cut a hole in it, and I got it sitting over here on my pin vise on one side, and I got the other 2 points, and I leveled it best I could, front to back, left to right. This board might be a little warped, but it's looking pretty good. So now that I've got that leveled, I like how Clean Flight and Betaflight always. Oh, I gotta connect here, sorry. I had to put a USB extender in there. Hold on a second. And now I can go over here to my Betaflight and connect it. I got that there. And one thing I'm never really sure about is these don't never really seem to change to me after I calibrate the accelerometer. But whatever, we do it. Oh, look, this actually changed quite a bit. Awesome. So, after that, we've calibrated the accelerometer. We go down 2 ports. I don't know what to do there. I don't think I have to do anything there, actually. Configuration. So, we do have a few things to do here. There are 2, apparently, versions of the Betaflight firmware you might get on your quad. I got one of the earliest releases, and mine is running 2.9 point something or another, and then the other option is 3.0. And so mine is coming with the 2.9, and there are 2 things, different things to do right there. Firstly, here, if you're running the 2.9, you choose the PWM option under ESCs and motor protocol. If you have the 3.0 version, there will be an option here actually for brushed motors, so that's cool. And motor stop, don't spin motors when armed, keep that checked. Disarm motors regardless, keep that checked. And this is already pre-programmed for you. Minimum throttle of 1020, max 2000. Let's scroll down here. Oh, and keep in mind, again, it does use these motor rotations. So if you haven't changed your motors, you basically just rotate them around in a circle, or you can swap 2 and 4 and 3 and 1 or whatnot. But you have to swap motors because the micromotor warehouse motors do actually have a rotation that they like to spin. They will spin in the other direction, but they will burn out quickly. So make sure you do that. We scroll down here. We got VBAT on, RX PPM input is on. Current meter is off. We got gyro update frequency 2 kilohertz and 1 kilohertz. Let's jump over to the manual here real quick. I want to see what they say. There are a few things. Yep, we did that. The motor stop already. Oh yeah, there's the command line input. So this is if you're using the 3.0 and the 2.91 version. Motor rotation, flight modes. These are the flight modes that they recommend. I'll just let you look at that for a second. They definitely recommend that you use air mode with these little tiny whoops. One, I would assume because you don't have you have motor stop turned on, and if you bring it down all the way to 0, the motors will actually turn off. So this will keep the motors going and make it a lot more controllable. On here, I do need to look for something else. Here we go, the recommended PID settings. But I'm going to come back to that. Flashing. here we go. Here's where it lists the configuration section. This is what you need to make these things if you ever reflash. If you flash your board up to the 3.0 from the 2.1, it will erase most of the things, so it's always a good idea to come in and take a picture of the way they are beforehand. So let's go back to Betaflight. And they said that you can turn the magnetometer and the accelerometer, the magnetometer and the barometer off if you like. Always save and reboot after making any changes. Oh, it was the kilohertz that I wanted to check in the manual. It listed... Yeah, 2 and 1. Alright, so back to Betaflight. Go down and check that. 2 and 1, accelerometer is the only thing on. Interesting, never seen that before. Permanently enable air mode. No, probably wait on that. I don't know if that would affect. I don't know what that would affect yet. So we'll go to the PID tuning. Let's see, let's just check top line 50, 40, 14, 120. Let's see if that's what they recommend up here. No. 50, 40, 14, 120. Let's check bottom line. 180, 45, 120. 180, 45, 120. Yeah, so it looks like that is already pre-configured. But again, if you flash up to the 3.0, you'll need to know all of these things. I couldn't figure out why this was just spinning its way out of control until I realized that when you turn on the Tyrannus and it starts getting signal, all of these previews here stop doing that. So that's kind of crazy. Receiver. Let's go ahead and turn on the Tyrannus. Sorry about my noise it makes.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
Switch warning.
I'm going to have to change that switch warning. Yeah, it connects, boom, stops spinning. But I do have a bit of a drift. So I will need to change my midpoints and end points to counter that drift. But the channel map is set up correct. Modes, there are no modes activated. I have not set up any switches on my Tyrannus yet, so I will need to set up those switches and come back to this. So I got those switches set up and we can verify them in the receiver tab. So here's my mode switch. Working. Arm switch. Working. Good. As well as all of my others. My throttle. Pitch, nope, pitch, roll. Now we'll go into modes, we'll set those up. Arm at a range, that'll be auxiliary 1, and we'll see what it's doing right now. I like this to be disarmed. Move that down to the left, and away for arm, excellent. No angle, but a horizon. We'll change that to auxiliary 2 is my channel 6. And let's see, at the bottom there we want horizon. And then by default in these clean flight Betaflight systems, when you don't have either angle or horizon mode selected, acro is selected by default. So we just need to come down here to air mode, and see, there will be acro only and there will be acro air mode. So we'll move that one up. Excellent. Checking the switches again. Acro only, horizon, acro, acro air mode. Excellent. Go down here and save it. Alright, excellent. And we can't forget the CLI command that must be entered. Let's go over here to the manual real quick. We can go to the top. There's a synopsis up there. Here we go. And I have the 2.9. And go to the command line and set motor PWM rate equals 4,000. I'm going to copy and paste, and I think that'll work. You want to do that when you can, because this needs to be real specific, as long as they wrote it perfectly. Alright, entered, hit enter. I didn't see anything happen. I don't believe anything's happening. I need to check that and come back. Alright, so here's why it didn't do anything. Because the copy paste was spelled incorrectly, technically. I went to the CLI. I actually had to power cycle a couple of times. It was frozen. So what came, and it didn't save my modes, so I had to re-enter my modes. Came back to the CLI and I entered the command dump dump, and got everything that it is programmed to do, scrolled through it, and found where it says set motor underscore PWM underscore rate equals 4,000. Well, there's a space in between the rate and equals and 4,000. So that's why it wasn't going through. But in fact, it is already set at 4,000. So I guess everything listed in the manual is just in case you have to reflash your board, or you are upgrading to the next firmware version 3.0 or higher if they come up with it. So now that all of that is done, I am going to disconnect and turn it on and see if it spins up. So I plug it in to a flight battery without the controller turned on. Let's see what happens when it regains connection.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed.
Switch warning.
Of course. Exit through that. And it has acquired a signal. Turned solid red. Let us flip the arm switch. Get a green light. Let's turn it off. Green light goes away. Nice, nice. Green light armed. Let's give it a little throttle push. Oh goodness. Oh, did you hear it spin up? They spun up like turbines. Awesome. Awesome. Well, it looks like I have successfully super whooped my tiny whoop. Yeah. Let me know if you like it. Thanks. Alright, well, I'm going to go ahead and maiden it here. I'll do a minute or so here, line of sight, in horizon mode. I don't want to fly around here in the hard garage in acro mode, but we'll see how she behaves. Alright, arming, powering up. Definitely need the trimmer up. Very sensitive. That's nice. Wow. It's not super powerful. Oh, it's a punch out. This isn't an absolutely full battery. See if we can get a nice hover. It's a nice rise. Oh, I still haven't changed my end points or my mid points, so that's probably a little to do with it. Alright, I'm getting low on battery power now. I'm at full stick. See what kind of an LVC we get. Not really anything. It just basically dies when the current gets too low. Alright, let's put another battery in, and we'll try our FPV. Forgot to start the DVR. Alright, it's taking off. Ooh, this battery's got a little more power. See her back. Oh goodness. Alright. A little bit of a whack attack there. So it is definitely I'm not sure how to put it. It moves around. It feels like it moves around faster than the original board. I'm not exactly certain why. It might be that I have chosen the larger of the camera angles, in the multi-pack that I have, and I need to get used to that. But definitely is flying. I am SPV flying. I will put some DVR in there. I can definitely still do one of the little tracks that I set up out here. Okay. Pretty stable, y'all. He likes to chase this thing around, but doesn't want to get chased around by it. Almost made it clean. Alright, well, there's another low battery, and she just pretty much kind of comes to the ground when the battery's done. So I will call that successful. I'm going to try out acro mode. Let me know how yours guys' turns out. Yours guys. Have a good one.